We've made a lot of changes recently, so let's take a quick moment and do a little bit of refactoring. I'll start by opening the solution, and I created a new base action class in the engine project in the actions folder. All of our actions will inherit from this base action class, so we can put the common action code here in base action, and we don't need to duplicate it in each action class. Because we're never going to actually instantiate a base action class on its own, we're only going to instantiate its children, I made this a public abstract class. The abstract means we can't instantiate it, just its children. Then I moved the public event on action performed down into the base action, and the report result function into the base action class. Notice that the report result function is now protected. Protected means it can be called by anything inside base action or by any of its child classes. I've also added a protected constructor. Even though we can't instantiate a base action object on its own, the children can call a constructor for the base action and pass in some more parameters and set some shared variables. In this case, we are going to have it set the item in use as a protected read-only variable, so that way we can use the item's name or description or anything else in the children. Because it's protected, the children can see it. And because the constructor is protected, the children can use it. Now that we have this base action class, we can go into the children, have them inherit from base action, and then remove this code that's now in the base class from the children. So I went into attack with weapons, removed the event, and removed the report result function, and then also put in this :base item use. So that way when we construct the attack with weapon object, we're going to pass the item in use into the base class constructor and save it in this _item in use variable. I've also renamed the parameter for the attack with weapon class. The first parameter used to be called weapon, and for the heal, the first parameter used to be called item, and I changed it to item in use just so that we're consistent throughout all of our actions and in the base class. And to inherit from the base action, on line 6, we now have public class attack with weapon, base action, I action. So this means we're inheriting from base action, and the attack with weapon implements I action. You can only ever inherit from one class, but you can implement from as many interfaces as you want. That's just the way C# is designed. You can't do multiple inheritance. And in case you're wondering, if the base class implemented everything in I action, it doesn't have the execute function, but if it did, we could remove I action from the attack with weapon and from the heal class, the children, and we could put that in the base action. If the base class did implement everything in I action, then we could also remove it from the children, and all the children class would still be I action objects because they inherit from base action, and base action implements I action. That means the child objects also implement I action. But that's not the case in this particular situation because the execute function is different for each of the children, so we can't use that here, but it's something to keep in mind for your other programs. We could potentially do some more refactoring here. In our execute functions, we have a very similar actor name variable and a target name that's close in both child objects, but they're different enough that I don't really want to say this is something we can move into the base class right now. Since we're only doing this in 2 classes right now, I'm not worried about the duplicated code. Once we start creating some more actions, we may decide that it's good to move the actor name and target name generation into the base action, but for right now, they're different. They're only in 2 places. I'm going to leave it how it is. That's all I'm going to do in this refactoring. So now you would run your unit test and run the game to make sure that it still works the same way that it used to. If you're watching the video on YouTube, in the description below the video, I'll have a link to the support page with all the source code, and if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them there. In the next lesson, we're going to start building the crafting ability, so the player will gain the ability to craft a granola bar from individual ingredients.